Vancouver, and about 4 years ago I was here the last time and I wrote the story of the adventures of Benjamin Frank. It's based on the North Shore of Vancouver, and I'm here now in Lighthouse Park, which is one of my favourite spots. The story begins in Benjamin's school, which is a fictitious school, but it's also based on my experiences of my childhood. Some of them fortunate, some of them not so fortunate, and that's just the way it goes when you're at school sometimes. But I set the scene there to bring about a sense of Benjamin's unhappiness and his discontent. He's thriving inside to go on an adventure, and it's just not happening for him. So he takes charge and off he goes. And that's the real beginning of him showing some real strong leadership skills, which is fantastic, and they develop as the story goes on. And when he goes on that journey, he starts it out in a place called Ambleside, which is where my parents used to live. So his experiences in the beginning are similar to what mine were at the beginning of that trip, because I went down for a walk to the water. I had no idea about the conditions overnight and the king tides that had washed the beach away, and I found myself wondering where the beach was. I then changed direction and decided to go across a bridge, but the bridge was closed, and I thought, what on earth is going on here? I had no idea. And then it started to pour down with rain, and then there was hail, and it was ridiculous. So I went home sopping wet, dried off, and decided the only thing to do on a day like that is to write. And I'd been writing for a long time. I really enjoyed it. And this story came to me that I had never planned. I never thought I'd write a children's story, let alone an adventure story. And I started to write really about my experience that day, and it grew into the experience of this character called Benjamin. And what was interesting is that I found myself writing about what I had actually seen in terms of the beach and the things that washed away and the trees that were on the, broken, and the leaves on the floor. But all of a sudden my imagination was going wild, and I was conceiving of all these characters that speak, like the penguin in the story. And as my trip went on and I carried on writing, I found myself one day in Lighthouse Park here, and it's a beautiful forest. I love it. The sunlight twinkles through the trees, the moss is so green, as you can see behind me. It's absolutely gorgeous. And so again, I found that my imagination was going wild and all these characters were appearing. Now, it's called Lighthouse Park. In the story, I call it Chiiliwack Forest. Chiiliwack is a place in British Columbia, but it's not a forest. And the reason I use that name is because chilly, cold, whack, hits you hard, comes in fast. And so if you read the story, you'll get more of the context as I describe it. And I wanted to keep the actual location separate from the story so that it was somewhere that people had to try and wonder, where on earth is she talking about? So I'm giving you some secrets now. But what's interesting about an experience like that is I was literally just writing about where I was going, the walks I was going on, the places I loved, and my experience as I felt it. So I remember one day being in this park, and I literally sat on a rock, which is on the other side of the trees, out by the water, and again it's described in the story as Benjamin takes that journey through the forest. I sat on that rock for 3 hours writing stories on my iPhone. So you don't always have to have a pen and paper. You end up using tools you're not expecting, and you end up writing a story that you're not expecting to write. So my journey in writing the story was as interesting and exciting for me as I hope the story is for those of you that have been reading it. And so what I'd like to say to you is it doesn't matter where you are. When you write fiction, you are able to write about your experiences and add a whole lot of fun on top. Imagine where you live now, somewhere you might go every day. If you look up, if you look around you, if you look down, if you look at the things that are with you, and then think about, what can I add? And it gives you an opportunity to be so creative and have so much fun. And to me, creativity is about having fun. It's about being in the moment with the descriptions, whether that's you're painting something to describe it, writing something, talking about it, or using some other media to express what you're seeing in a different way. Really go to town. Whatever is in your heart and what you'd like to do, that's important. That is creativity. So go and have some fun. And what I'd say to you is, don't be frightened. Don't fear what people might say about what you produce. Just be brave and be bold with it. Be courageous. Say exactly what you want to say. Paint exactly what you want to paint. Show us exactly what you want us to imagine. Be brave. It's really important. And ultimately, in everything that you're doing, just be you, because we're waiting to hear from you.